It's Matt Slick Live. Matt is the founder and president of the Christian Apologetics Research Ministry, found online at CARM.org. When you have questions about Bible doctrines, turn to Matt Slick Live for answers. Taking your calls and responding to your questions at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's me, Matt Slick. Listen to Matt Slick Live. Hey, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope everything went well, and stuff. I got to witness. I always love to do that, witness and answer questions and teach and do things on various venues. I will say, however, that yesterday I pretty much vegged in front of the TV. I purposely vegged and enjoyed just watching whatever. So, hey, look, if you want to give me a call, we have 5 open lines. All you have to do is dial 877-207-2276. Also, if you would like to email me instead of call, you can do that. And if you want to email me a question, just go to, or just email me at info@carm.org. info@carm.org, and I can read your question over the air and get to it there. All right. Ooh, yeah, got all kinds of stuff. Going to Israel in, let's see, when am I going to Israel? Going to Israel in about 5 or 6 weeks. And I'll be out for a couple of weeks at that point. And then going to, about a month after that, we're tentatively planned to go to Japan. It's not set, but to do a Christian tour thing there. Actually, Japan has a history of Christianity, but in the 1600s, they wiped out a lot of the Christians. And there are Christians growing churches, but it's very difficult to break through the Shintoism and other things that are there. Nevertheless, like I said, if you want to give me a call, 877-207-2276. So today, I spent some time going through, my novel, The Influence. I am redoing it, rewriting it. It's the same plot, the same everything, just polishing it up. And I'm on page 146 out of 226, 227, I think it is. And let's see, that's right. So hopefully be done in about 4 or 5 weeks. I don't know, we'll see. Depends if I get going on it a lot. It takes a lot of time to work through it. So I'll be re-releasing that and then hopefully be working on a second novel in the series. In the meantime, when I do that, I also work on other projects. I'm working on an article of alleged biblical discrepancy, working on that. And I spent a few hours this morning on a new outline I've been working on, outline on societal decay. And I may have mentioned it last week, but I spent some time going through some of the issues of wokeness and the problems in our country and around the world, but in our country, where truth is up for grabs, sexuality is just whacked, gender this, gender that. It's sad. Feminism and what it's become and how it's harmful. Radical feminism, and then how free speech is under attack. Just going through and I'm getting documentation and definitions and learning as I go through and I discover stuff. I got a paragraph I just started working on. We have the problems: historical revisionism with microaggressions, blaming others, racism, sexism, ageism, white supremacy, patriarchy, destruction of our cultural identity, corruption in the government, narcissistic snowflakes, the attack on Christianity, but not Islam, censorship, redefining age-old terms like marriage, wife, husband, undermining truth. There's mass migration, invasion at the southern border, common morals altered and undermined, gender fluidity, drag shows for children, sexualization of children, promiscuity, abortion, LGBTQ, them having a disproportionate power over the majority, leftist media, schools are leftist indoctrination institution, forced vaccinations, increased inflation, increased national debt, violent crime on the rise, lack of trust of the government, corporate power, canceling climate change propaganda used to control technologically induced narcissism, attacking masculinity, disarming the citizens. Those are just some of the things that, I'm just taking a paragraph of what are some of the issues that we're facing here in our country. And I was really surprised at the variety of things that are there. And there's more that I could add to this stuff, but I think that's going to be pretty sufficient. I'll polish it up. If you have any other things that you want to, give to me, that's fine. And I'm thinking about producing either an article and or video related to this issue. Because if you think about it, man, oh man, our country is just messed up. Here's a question for you guys. Do any of you trust our government? Now, that's just a simple question. Do you trust our politicians? Personally, I have no trust in them. I have no faith in them. I don't. I'm talking about the politicians in Washington. Now, that's just my opinion. I wouldn't trust them any more than I could throw an elephant. And I don't trust the process. Um, I think there's insider trading. I know that they're becoming millionaires. They hold their offices forever. They have power. They have influence. They're obviously not doing things in the best interest of the country. That's obvious. So what do you say? Are you trusting them too? Now, this isn't a show about politics, but I'm just saying this is one of the things that is just bad that we can't even trust, or at least I don't. I don't know how many of you out there don't trust the government anymore. Don't trust them. That's not good. That's not good. And we had some friends over the weekend, and we got talking about all of this. And one of them made a comment that I think it was, I don't know who it was, who said it. What I know, maybe somebody could find me that quote. Who said it so I can reference it? The last throes of a dying society is when the politicians raid the treasury, and I'm seeing that. The politicians pass laws that they're exempt from, but we have to pay taxes on there, and then they just increase their own salaries, and then they have power. They know what laws to pass that'll affect what companies, and they'll buy stocks in these companies. They're gaining power, they're getting money. So these are some of the things, and then the LGBTQ and the issue of sexuality, and that to me is really really an interesting topic. Just the idea of gender fluidity, what that means. That you can be whatever gender you want. You can have any identity you want. You can define women any way you want, or men. Uh, I don't know how many supposed genders there are now. It's just stupid. And it's actually taken seriously. I watched some videos over the weekend where people are talking about their identity and how we must address them by their chosen pronouns. You have to. And if you don't, you're doing violence. The intolerance and the bigotry. Well, why am I talking about all this? Because it reminds me of what the scripture says and how things are going to get bad. So anyway, that's what I did over the weekend, among other things. Talking about the gospel and defending the Christian faith. Um, and so, yeah, it's kind of depressing, isn't it? Man, it's like, woohoo. Uh, but I'm going to do something, information thing about it and talk and see if you have any other information you want to give me on that. Please just email me at info@carm.org. And if you want to ask a question for today, info@carm.org. We talk about theology. In fact, was it Friday night? I think someone asked me I was in a chat room, or Saturday night, I forgot which, to go over the nature of the Trinity as it relates to the one and the many. Now, I noticed we're getting calls in, but they're not lasting. They're hanging up. So I'm wondering if we're having phone problems. So maybe one of you guys in the chat could call the number 877-207-2276. See if there's a problem. So, looks like something's going on. And I've seen the calls come in and out. So I don't know. Let me just jump on this call. Oh, I guess it is working. All right. Let me just jump out right on here. Let's see.
I'm
Don't
from
know
Richmond, Virginia.
don't know who you are, but you're on the air with Matt Slick. So what do you got?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing okay, hanging in there, man.
But
What do you got, man?
well, it's the first time I ever called, and
Okay.
you were talking. You were asking whether or not you trust the government
Mm-hmm.
earlier, and you know, while I was a soldier, it was kind of like I had to. You know what I mean? The military did so many great things for me, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of I don't want to call it brainwashing, but it does seep in over time. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as far as what's going on these days and everything, I definitely don't. You know, I don't feel like individuals are the individuals in Congress and the different individuals in power. I think anytime you really combine humans and power, you get corruption.
Yeah.
And I hope and pray that as a collective, they might come to a good decision. You know, is all I pray for.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And my dad was in the service. He was in the Army. Actually, no. He was in the Navy in World War II, the Army in Korea, and the Air Force in Vietnam. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I grew up on military bases, so I'm very comfortable being on a military base. You know, going to the PX and the commissary. I mean, those were yeah. You know, it's just what we.
It's almost like a little utopia.
Yeah, it is. And so I'm comfortable with it. And I thought there was a lot of good order and it was safe on base. But, you know,
Right.
aside from that, and thank you for your service. I do, you know, I thank all the military. I do. I appreciate it. But a guy called me about a year.
I was blessed to serve.
What's that? You're proud to serve? Okay.
I was blessed to serve. I got lucky and got in.
Good for you. Well, thanks. So I talked to a guy a while back, and he told me, and he says he did not want his name given or anything like this, but he told me that the conservative officers were being pushed out, and they were putting in places of power in the military, officers who were leftist and had socialist agendas, which I found to be interesting. But he said it was happening a lot. I don't know if you've seen that.
Well, to be honest, it was starting on my way out.
Yeah.
You know, we were starting to have briefings where there were certain things I wasn't allowed to say to soldiers. You know, like it's stuff I wouldn't say on the radio, but like you weren't allowed to make any kind of homosexual references and cadences. You know, things of this nature. You couldn't hurt their feelings anymore. And it was like, wow, you want me to train them to take them somewhere where people want to behead them, but I can't hurt their feelings to prepare them, you know. And it was starting to really integrate to that as I was on my way out, and I was really relieved to be on my way out. As far as, you know, because it was going to be really restricted, and being in combat, you know, and some of my female soldiers were some of the best soldiers I had.
Good.
You know,
can you hold on? We got a break. We got a break, buddy. I want to hear what you had to say. Okay, so hold on. I want to continue with the female soldiers being good soldiers. Hey, folks, we have 3 open lines. If you want to give me a call, 877-207-2276. We'll be right back.
Everybody has a smile story, those daily moments of joy that make you smile, especially when you're a child like 3-year-old Zena. Her smile is as bright as her future. But there's something you wouldn't know about Zena. She was born with a cleft lip, which can make it hard to eat, talk, hear, and even breathe. And she's far from alone. A baby is born with a cleft every 3 minutes. This hurdle could have kept Zena from living her full smile story. Thankfully, she met Smile Train. Since 1999, Smile Train has helped millions of children like Zena find their forever smiles. by empowering medical professionals around the world to provide cleft care in their own communities at no cost to families. Smile Train is working tirelessly to give every child with a cleft the opportunity to live their full smile story. Learn how you can help more kids like Zena at smiletrain.org/learn.
We live in an on-demand world. Time, weather, meals, and content. That's why the Truth Network has the Truth Podcast Network. Some of your favorite Truth Network programs, plus some that are podcast only. Rich content that is rich in the Word.
If Not For God podcast with Mike Swick, God takes men from rock bottom to the kingdom of God and turns hopelessness to hope. Stories to encourage you what might have been if not for God. If Not For God podcast with Mike Swick at truthnetwork.com.
And what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Some kids never smile. They're embarrassed by their crooked teeth. They want braces like the other kids, but their families can't afford them. Some may even try to straighten their teeth themselves. That can make everything worse. Luckily, there's Donated Orthodontic Services, a program from the American Association of Orthodontists. It helps provide orthodontic treatment to kids and teens whose families can't afford.
It's Matt Slick Live, taking your calls at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Thank you very much for paying attention, for listening, and for joining us today. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's see. Let's get back on the air. And I forgot your name. Don't know if I got your name. But anyway, you were saying...
Paul.
Tom? Okay.
Paul.
Paul. Got you, Paul. All right. Well, okay. So you were saying when you're fighting, the female soldiers were good soldiers, right?
Well, we were in transportation, and they were great soldiers, and but or I don't want to say anything bad ever about female soldiers, but it bringing just that having in the situation brings other complications in combat.
Like what?
Somebody's in love with that girl. Definitely. Somebody in the troop loves her. And if she's hurt and wounded and she's screaming, it changes the whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's somebody's girlfriend that's hurt. Right. It's different on young men's minds. They definitely belong with us in combat, but like the way they were starting to integrate different things like the LGBTQ stuff and like bringing different genders in and fluid genders into the service and everything, was a huge concern for me as a sergeant training people and having to take people places of their stability and their mental health, where they were grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Those were my main concerns with it.
Yeah, I need to do more research on that aspect of it to see how it will affect the military. And that's, I believe, a problem, because we want the military to be strong, capable, and not distracted by internal conflicts and issues. So, yeah. But, so anyway, just a comment, as I've been doing stuff. The reason I've been researching this, it's actually an interesting thing that one thing led to another, to another, to another. I believe the Christian church is weak, and I believe we have great power also. And I believe the Christian church is not doing what it needs to be doing and what it can be doing in society, because the men aren't doing what they need to be doing. That's my position. And so I started thinking about this. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Why is it that the men aren't as strong as they need to be? Not domineering and mean, but come on, standing up for righteousness. And so I started thinking, well, society is attacking men, and it's promoting women, and it's creeping into the church. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. And I started wondering, well, what is going on in society that's having this deleterious effect on masculinity and the effect in the church? That led me to other issues of thinking. I've been thinking about this for months and months and months, the state of society as it views men. And it's a very negative view, toxic masculinity. But you don't hear about toxic femininity. You hear about patriarchy, but not matriarchy. You always hear the negatives about men, and men hear this, and I think that they're becoming wimps, and they're not sure what to do. And with the radical feminist movement, where equality is over quality, equality of outcome rather than quality and excellence. And men aren't sure what to say, what they can say. So it really puts them on the defensive a great deal. And then when you see movies, pay attention to the movies. I don't even go to these movies anymore where they've got women heroines. It's not because I don't think women can be heroines. My favorite movie of all time is Aliens, the second one, and Sigourney Weaver is the heroine. And I've seen the movie literally 70 times. I keep count. 70. It's my favorite movie. She did a fantastic job. And that's, but she had all the qualities of being a female and, loved Newt and had all this stuff. She was great. But now, and in the movie of Aliens, for example, the men weren't wimps, except the commander guy, he kind of was. But that's it. Well, now you see these movies and men are just outdone by females, and females beat up guys like it's nothing. I'm like, give me a break. And guys know this, but I wasn't saying anything. So this has got me going. Well, that led me to the issue of studying feminism. That led me to the promiscuity issue and sexuality issues, which has now led me to. So it's just become one of these roads with a lot of different forks I'm taking as I'm studying all this. That's why. Anyway.
I believe it's for men today that are trying to protect righteousness even in their own homes. It's an uphill battle.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot of outside influences. I have a 16-year-old daughter, who gets most of her opinions from TikTok, and I have to, just try to set a good example and do what I can and hope for the best.
I got 3 daughters, and once my wife, all of us were home, and I was looking around. We're all in the living room, and all of them were on phones. And and so I texted them, "What are you guys doing?" Because I'm sitting right there with them, and that's okay. It doesn't represent the whole time, but the phones are and stuff. It's a huge influence. And how do we deal with that? And you're right. As a man, you've got to be a good example, but you can't be mean. And I'm to take their phones and run them over in the car. But you're right. It's a huge influence, and the stuff they're seeing is stupid.
Don't get me started on that. I took my daughter's phone from her, and she called social services. It got that bad.
Well, but, I would do. I'd say. I'd say you call social services, they can take you away then. That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was, it had to jump through a few hoops.
I say, no, you can go. You can take them. You want to do that. You want to become, because essentially it's a brown shirt. They're going to turn you in because you can't get your phone. You try and exercise discipline and guidance in the home, and then they call, so to speak, the authorities on you. I would say, that's your choice. You're going to have to live with it. You go. You're fine. Go out. And when you're ready to come back, if you want to, that's fine. I'm not going to jump through any hoops. I'm not going to do this. That'd be it. I'd set the law down. That's it. Do what you want.
It was a fine to not even get a whole nother conversation going, but it's a very fine line because my mother is a professor, a sociology professor at Virginia Commonwealth University. Mm-hmm. And let's just say, as far as radical feminism goes, she was one of their main leaders, so it's better off to have her here.
I knew a guy. We got
Because
callers
that's
coming
right.
in. Get this. I knew a guy. This is the kind of thing that's so unfair, and the attacks on masculinity. And people hear about this, and I'll say it, and people will hear about it. I have a good friend I've known for many years, a very godly man. And he and his first wife got divorced, and he wasn't a Christian at the time. He's now a very godly man with his second wife, and she's a godly woman. And we've known him for years and years. Okay. So he told me in his first marriage that his first wife accused him of bad stuff with the daughter. He just the accusation, he swore up and down before the Lord. He goes, it never happened. She just made the accusation, just that. And because of it, he had to spend a lot of money to defend himself. He had to go through counseling for 2 years before he would be allowed to really visit his daughter again. Just because she made the accusation. And then at the end of the 2 years, the psychologist switched and they had a new psychologist. She said, you got to start over. He said, I'm done. This happens all the time. Hey, we got to go, buddy. There's the music. Okay? All right. Hey, folks, 3 open lines, 877-207-2276. See, all this is important because we live in a real world. We'll be right back.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a story that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family, things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, we just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You joined because you were not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Some kids never smile. They're embarrassed by their crooked teeth. They want braces like the other kids, but their families can't afford them. Some may even try to straighten their teeth themselves. That can make everything worse. Luckily, there's Donated Orthodontic Services, a program from the American Association of Orthodontists. It helps provide orthodontic treatment to kids and teens whose families can't afford it. For kids who apply, are approved, and are matched with a volunteer orthodontist, it can be life-changing. Their treatment is in the hands of an expert, a licensed local orthodontic specialist who improves their smiles by correctly aligning teeth and jaws. Some kids think they'll never smile again, but Donated Orthodontic Services may help them smile with confidence. To link the application and eligibility requirements, visit aaoinfo.org.
Live prayer on a national sports network? You got to be kidding me. What is our country coming to?
True Commentary with Stu Epperson, author of the book, First Words of Jesus.
The whole world stopped on Monday Night Football when DeMar Hamlin took a hit and went down with cardiac arrest. Suddenly, all the after-game parties, all the plans for the night were off. There were football players kneeling, praying to God, calling out for his help. And then just a couple days later on a national sports network, they prayed live on TV. How encouraging to see people turn to prayer. Even though prayer shouldn't be a last resort, it should be a first response. It's neat to see a country recognizing that we need God. And it's neat to see people realize that God is one prayer away.
True Commentary with Stu Epperson, author of the book, First Words of Jesus. Available now in bookstores or go online to First. It's Matt Slick Live, taking your calls at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
Welcome back to the show. If you want to give me a call, we have 2 open lines, 877-207-2276. Let's get to Mike from, let's see, I think you're from North Carolina. Hey, welcome. You're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, Matt.
Hey.
I've talked with you before about this topic of a couple months ago, which has to do with our currency system. I can't call it money because it's not money.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you talking about all the problems that we're having to deal with in this country. Part of, we have to admit that at the source of a lot of those problems is the size of our government, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, our government's become huge and bloated.
Mm-hmm.
And Washington has become this monster. It's like an octopus. It's swallowing everything up.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that Washington can be the way it is because we have a dishonest monetary system.
Well, that's
we have a monetary system.
I don't know how a monetary system is dishonest. People are dishonest, but it's an interesting system. So what are we going to say about it?
Well, first of all, it violates the Bible. I mean, there's like 8 passages in the Bible that talks about diverse weights and measures, and money or currency, and in this case, is a measure. It's a measure of value.
Mm-hmm.
So today you go to the grocery store and eggs are $1.50 a dozen. 2 weeks later, they're $2.25 a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're $5 a dozen. That doesn't make any sense. That inflation is caused, that type of inflation is caused by a government that's allowed to create currency, because it's not money, it's currency. Create currency out of nothing. Actually, it creates it out of debt. That's what creates our and I'm encouraging Christians.
Yeah, it's unbiblical too, absolutely, because we're not supposed to go into debt biblically. And there's reasons for it. You become slave to the master who owns your debt. Right. Mm-hmm.
But our currency system is such that it requires debt, because without debt, the currency wouldn't exist. In other words, if everybody, the government and every person and every corporation in America paid off all of their debts, there would be no currency in circulation. None. Zero. It would disappear.
Well, do you have a question about this? I mean, I get it.
No,
but
the question I have is, do Christians have the knowledge to understand that, first of all, how it relates to the Bible and how it relates to their lives? Because we have a crisis coming down the pike. I've been predicting this for years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Mike from Winston-Salem, and anybody that hears my voice knows who I am. That I've been telling people we're headed for a hyperinflationary depression.
Oh yeah, we are.
We are headed towards a collapse of our currency system, and it is going to destroy. It's destroying people. People that are on fixed incomes now are hurting terribly.
Yeah, I know.
But that's what allows all of the evils that you see circulating around. A lot of it has to do with government and the bureaucracy, and the only reason that can exist is because the government can create currency out of nothing. That's how they pay for it.
Yeah, and people are letting them do it, get away with it. Yeah, and then there's the issue of can you vote them out, and how many trust our elections? Because I don't trust them anymore.
I don't either.
So here's the thing: what do we do as Christians?
But the whole thing is,
that's what we got to talk about.
We have to go back. Right, we have to go back to biblical money, which is in our Constitution. The Constitution says that the government cannot print paper money without it being backed by something.
Yeah, gold standard, and they're off.
Our money today is backed by nothing.
Right.
So that's what the Constitution says.
I'm with you.
We have to go back. We have to go back to our currency system.
I got you. I got you. But the thing is, we can't do anything. We're just talking on the radio about it. There's nothing we can do about it. We need to get these people out of office, and that's not going to happen either. So what we need to be doing is just praying and asking God to change people's hearts, and we need to be voting appropriately. We need to do what's necessary in order to hopefully ensure that our votes count and it's not manipulation. That's what we need. That's what we got to do. We're aware of the problem. That's what has to happen.
If you go back to sound money, which is gold and silver, which is what God gave us to use as money, that's in the Bible. The first purchase was Abraham when he purchased the field to bury Sarah, and with 400 shekels of silver. That's what we need to use. That's what the Constitution says is supposed to be our monetary system. But we don't. That's
I got you. I understand.
Right
I got you. So what do you want to do about it? What do we have to do about it? That's the thing. We can describe the problem, but we have to make sure that we know what we're doing. What are we going to do?
Once we get those people elected, we need to push people into office that are going to return us to a sound mind. That has to be one of the key. That's one of the key issues because that's the center of it all.
Okay.
That's the focal point.
Yep.
Because prior,
okay, I got you. Okay, hold on, Mike. I got you. Okay, but now we're just talking. You're just going, and I get you. We need to be able to do something, but I'm trying to make people aware of problems, and so in different areas, what we Christians need to do is to be praying, because we have to ask God to raise up godly people. It's going to take time. And we need to have people who are going to be in offices who are going to seek God's will and not their own. And we got to pray about this. We need to be aware, and you're right, they're not doing the monetary thing the way the Constitution says, because they don't take the Constitution seriously anymore. We have people who are in power who are doing their own thing and not upholding the Constitution that they swore to do. So they're liars and hypocrites. What do we do about it? We start preaching and teaching about this occasionally in the church. We start praying, we start voting people, and we start warring against the liberal idiocy that's going on. That's what we have to do. So, yeah.
And Christians need to protect themselves against what's coming down the road, hyperinflation, which means my suggestion is that people put something into gold or silver. I like silver better because you're going to see prices explode. But in terms of gold and silver, prices are going to collapse. People complain about the price of oil. I'll give you an example. The price of gasoline is $3 a gallon. The melt value, when I was a kid, gasoline was 25 cents a gallon. Well, I can take but it was silver quarters. It was a silver quarter. I can take a silver quarter today and get about $4 for it, which means the price of gasoline is cheaper today than it was when I was a kid. In terms of silver, in terms of
right, I got you.
That is what protects you.
I got you, Mike. I got you, brother. I got you. Okay. And so there's a lot of problems.
I'm passionate about it.
I know you are. And so what we need to do is come up with something as Christians. And what I try and do when we talk about these kind of things is inform Christians. And I agree with you. You need to prepare. I tell people they should be prepping, because there's going to come an economic collapse, because the country can't sustain this kind of inflation and sending billions and billions overseas, and then opening our borders and being invaded from the south. And then the finances have to go out to take care of them, which is a slap in the face of the citizenry who work hard. And so this causes distrust. It causes problems. Now we need to be made aware of this as Christians. And so, I'm a theologian, and we're having to talk about this more and more. It's coming up more and more. And I'm not an expert on politics, but I'm learning. But theologically speaking, what I'm trying to do is find out what the underlying biblical principles are to solve it. And biblically, what are the problems that have created it? And if we can deal with those, then we can start from the Christian perspective. We can start doing what's necessary to fix the problem from within the Christian church. We've got to start with ourselves and our own Christian church and then move out. And we need to be out there. We need to raise up people who are going to be in government, who are more afraid of God than they are of their fellow Democrat or Republican people down the hallway. So this is what we need to have. So, okay, buddy.
I use God's word to show people how violating God's word leads you to the disaster.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, in the whole history of money, people need to read about the history of money and understand it. In the whole history of this has happened thousands of times, over and over and over. It led to the destruction of the Roman Empire. It collapsed because of hyperinflation and Diocletian. I mean, this is
okay. I got you.
I mean,
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
Okay.
I know about it, and it's bad. So what are we going to do? I'm trying to tell people what to do, and I do believe they should start prepping. They should start getting food stores, and I agree with you. Silver's better than gold, because you can, one silver coin you can exchange for bread and whatever, but a silver coin, it's just too expensive. You can't break it down and
Right.
work with it. So
Yeah.
and this is sounds alarmist, but these are just as Jesus says, the when the storm's coming, don't you know this and don't you know that? Be ready, pay attention. And I'm just doing my godly duty to inform people and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we got to go. There's a break, buddy. There's a break. So we got to get going. All right. We'll talk to you later, man. God bless. Hey, folks, 3 open lines. If you want to give me a call, 877-207-2276. Be right back.
Mama, what does the chicken say?
Chicken. Oh, okay.
Wolf?
Oh, a wolf.
Ooh! What about the tiny dog? Cat. Owl. Dolphin? What does the turkey say? Whale.
Whale sound.
Do the giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Okay. Giraffe. Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
My husband, Alex Hussey, was hit by an IED in Afghanistan.
I was playing man in foot patrol and I stepped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in the explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories great and small.
Seeing Alex learning how to snow ski, that's life-changing.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex did it. He skied down this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
To see him on that slope and smiling like that, we'll be taking this home.
This has meant so much. Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Mama, what does the chicken say?
Chicken. Oh, okay.
Wolf?
Oh, a wolf.
Ooh! What about the tiny dog? Cat. Owl. Dolphin? What does the turkey say? Whale.
Whale sound.
Do the giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Okay. Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National.
It's Matt Slick Live, taking a call at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
Everybody, welcome back to the show. Let's get to Ron from North Carolina. Ron, welcome. You're on the air.
Hi, Matt.
Hey.
I got a question. Hey,
sure.
So my question is, can the devil place evil thoughts in Christians' minds?
I don't know. Now, when I say I don't know, I mean it that the Bible doesn't say yes, doesn't say no. I don't know anything in the scriptures that seems to address it. But we do know that the devil moved David to number Israel. So there can be an influence, but we don't know if it's a thought that can put in your mind. In my novel, The Influence, I took a little bit of literary license. And this is just, it's literary license, it's fiction. And I have demonic forces that can only do this with unbelievers. where they put their hands or their clawed hands on their chests to see if they're indwelt by God. And if they're not, then they can take their hands and they can tweak their brains, their minds, and whisper into their ears to get them to do what they want or try and influence them. And this, granted, this is just, it's just literary device. So I'm not going to do anything that the Bible forbids or says isn't the case. And that's just, like I said, literature. So can they? I don't know. And sometimes I wonder, where do certain thoughts come from? It's like, what the heck was that? So I just don't know. And I can't give you a good answer.
So one of the Bible verses I was reading is James 1:14, and it talks about how each person's tempted when they are dragged away from their own evil desires. And so I was thinking, is it possible that Christians cause this evil thought, or if they're sliding away from Scripture and their walk with Christ, could it be possibly said that based on that verse, that Christians are kind of at fault?
Oh, yeah. You don't need the devil to help you do something bad. It can come up out of our own hearts and minds. So, each one is tempted, is carried away by his and enticed by his own lust. James 1:14. The question then becomes, what can a demonic force do to make it worse? And this gets to a really complicated kind of an explanation, because are there people who are possessed? Well, yeah. Can possessed people be influenced? Of course. Can they be influenced to tempt Christians? It would seem so. And so is that possible? How about just oppressed? What about, do they have any power over the physical realm to cause effects? And so it's a complicated topic to go through, and the Bible just doesn't really tell us. So I can't tell you either, wish I could. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. I just wish I had a better answer. Okay. All right, brother.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, God bless. All right, let's get to Nelson from California. Hey, Nelson, welcome. You're on the air.
Hey, Matt. God bless.
God bless, buddy.
Yes. Amen. I got a question from just a friend of mine. I've been talking to for a while. I've been knowing for a while, and he asked a question, and I just thought back, and I was like, I don't know. So let me ask you the question. Let me ask Matt Cliff. He may know the answer.
Okay.
And so the question is, as you know, I forget where I think it's in James, where it says, you confess your sins to the brothers, and so that you may be healed and forgiven. I thought that's in James, right?
Well, there's Galatians 6:2. Bear one another's burdens, thereby fulfill the law of Christ. And let's see, there's other verses that talk about that, but I'm not sure about James. Might be in there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the question he asked was, if he committed a sin and he confessed it to God.
James 5:16.
Not to his.
Okay. James 5:16. Yes, that's where it is. Sorry. Okay. Confess your sins one another, pray for one another, so that you may be healed. The effective prayer of a righteous man can accomplish much. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, that one. So if he confesses a sin to God and not to his pastor, and is convicted to confess it to his pastor but doesn't, will God still bless him? That was the question.
Well, what kind of blessing and what different degrees of blessing? But the answer here is it's a tough one. Bless him in what way? Okay, so is he supposed to talk to his pastor about his sins? Nothing in the Bible says he has to. The Bible says to confess your sins one to another. It doesn't say pastors. Yeah. Now, you certainly can go to a pastor for help. It could be your wife. It could be your husband. It could be your brother, your sister, your friends, but preferably Christians. So James 5:16 says this, confess your sins one to another. And let's see, Galatians 6:2 says, bear one another's burdens. So there's a mutuality here in confession and mutual respect and concern. So if I have a sin against somebody, depending on the situation, I'll either go talk to that person, or a lot of times I talk to my wife about things, and she's good. She's got a good ear, and she'll give me some advice sometimes or some feedback, and I appreciate that. And sometimes I have gone to pastors to talk about certain things. So it just depends. I don't think there's any hard and fast rule. Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, because I wasn't sure the answer. My answer was, well, yeah, God will still bless you, but not the way you would like it, I guess.
And He can bless you with some discipline. That's for sure. That's right. I've been blessed that way a few times. That's right.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you very much.
All right, man. God bless. All right. Now let's get on with Gerald from North Carolina. Gerald, welcome. You're on the air. Hello. Hello. I did hit the right button. So he wants to talk about guarding against the coming inflation. What I'll do is I'll just leave the phone open if he wants to call. And the Bible talks about this, folks, about having different sources of income in Proverbs, and it talks about the storing up in advance and just being prepped. And that's what it's talking about. It's not, sell your house and make a Faraday cage over it and get an underground bomb bunker. I'm talking like that. But it's wise to have 3 to 6 months worth of supplies in your house and things like that. So that's what we're talking about. And the Bible says to do that. And so you should do that kind of thing. You should be prepared. I've actually written an article on it. Does the Bible talk about prepping? I think it's prepping, a modern term, but it really comes down to just being prepared. And yeah, we should. Gerald, are you there? Let's see. Oh, I see. You got disconnected. Let me hang up there. Let's do this over that line. Hey, Gerald, are you there, buddy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. All right, man. No problem.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I was calling because I wanted to ask, so if you have very little money, how could you prep for this upcoming storm?
Well, some of the things you can do is, depending on your situation, I've been studying this now for a couple of years, you can get rice and beans and various grains that are in bags. You got to take those bags, however, and put them into containers, and you can go to bakeries and say, hey, do you have any buckets that you're just throwing out, and get buckets and put them in the buckets because they're more airtight. And then you put them in a freezer and leave them in the freezer for a week. And the reason you do that is because it tends to kill any larvae that are in the grains, because there's always going to be that in the beans and stuff like that. And so, you can do things. You get flour, and you don't want to pack too many things, but just stuff like that. And the people I've learned, people don't realize that putting things in the freezer for like a week is a very good way and a very easy way to increase the length of the storage of what it is you want to live on later on. Then you have the issue of water. And what you could do periodically is just buy a gallon of water here and there. Or you can go to the store and get one of those 5-gallon jugs, whatever, the stackables, and you can get water, and they have a shelf life. Sometimes the waters are sealed such that they'll last for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But one of the things you can do also is take a little bit of Clorox bleach, like 2 drops a gallon or 1 drop a gallon, something like that. You can put it in the water, and it'll keep it fresh. It'll taste a little bit bad when you drink it, but it's not going to hurt you. And so there's little things you can do, stuff like that. And I would suggest, if you can, save up and get a little solar panel. You can get it for $40 to $100, and you can charge a phone with them, and things like that. And so there's little things you can do. Well, we always start where you're at. And then you can go to, go ahead.
When you start putting things in the freezer,
Mm-hmm.
and you wait a week and then you take it out, like wouldn't there be like condensation, and then wouldn't it go bad sooner, or
No. No, if you put them in like Ziploc bags, for example, take your stuff, put it in a Ziploc bag if you want, and then press all the air out of it if you can, and much as you can, and then put it into the freezer. And then once it's been in there for a week, they say 3 to 4 days. I always put it in for a week, and then take it out, put it into buckets, and then just seal the buckets up and then put the buckets in a closet where there's not much light. That's it. And put a little tab of date on it. And flour and grains, rice will last forever. I mean, not forever, but a long, long time. And you can read up on the web about it. And it's easy. And I'd also recommend going to silver sites that sell silver and get what's called junk silver. Junk silver is still silver like before 1965, and they'll sell it, and it becomes a monetary form of exchange. Should the economy just, let's just say, collapse it all the way, everything's gone Mad Max, then you can use that kind of a thing. And also bullets are something that are good for trading. So, it's just stuff like that. But for food and water, that's what you want to do. Water is important, and you can last 3 days without it, and you can last 3 weeks without food. So water becomes more important, but storing food is something very easy to do. And you put it in Ziploc bags. The Ziploc bags aren't perfect because they seep air. So you can put Ziploc bags inside of Ziploc bags in a freezer, and then store it in the buckets, and they'll last 2 to 5 years. Things like that. If you keep them in a cool stuff. So I've been learning about stuff, and that's what I've been doing slowly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a big deal. So we have enough to last for a while, and it's just good advice. I would do it even if I didn't think things were going bad. I would just say, this is just smart, because what if there's a power outage? What do you do? And I'm prepped for that a little bit, and got what I need. Just enough stuff. That's all. Nothing big. And you get these candles that you get on Amazon, and they'll last like I think 7 days, and you can cook with them. And because we know that different parts of just a pan over a little brick thing and put a candle underneath it. You can cook, and because different people have had different outages, and people don't know this. I'll say this before we get going. There have been a lot of food processing plants in America that have mysteriously burned down in the past 5 years.
End quote.
Yeah. So, and it's
seriously.
Yeah, it's happening. We had one in Oregon, not too far from here, just a few weeks ago. So, why is that happening? Just time to prep. That's all. I could do a show on it and talk about it. I've been prepping and learning, so I'm learning. Not going crazy. Just do what we got to do, and just make sure that my wife's going to be taken care of, and that's all. No big deal. Okay. All right, buddy.
Okay.
All right, man. We're out of here. Music should be starting already, so I'm going to get going. All right, Gerald. God bless. Hey, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's a different show. I don't know if the music's going to start, or if it already has, or if you're even on the air right now, because it seems a bit longer than normal. But there you go. I hope the Lord will bless you, and by His grace, back on there tomorrow. So I think that's it. I think we're off the air. Aren't we off the air? We off the air? I'm typing it in. Typing it into the... Yeah, we are. Okay. All right. I didn't hear the music, so it threw me off. But that's all right. Okay. No big deal. Here, let's do this. There we go. Okay. Yeah, they messed up on the outro music. No big deal. It happens. So, hey, what'd you guys think of that show? A little bit different, huh?
Yeah, definitely. But it was informative. I didn't think about there being anything about money and printed money in the Constitution, and so I looked it up while you were talking about it, and it is in there.
Yeah, the Constitution is being trodden underfoot. People don't believe it anymore. In my opinion, they have people in office who don't care about the Constitution. I don't trust a senator or a congressman anymore. I could throw him or her. I think that there needs to be a cleaning of our government, and I think the Declaration of Independence should be followed. I believe people should rise up, and they should do what's necessary.
I'm one of the few Christians that reads the Constitution from time to time. I used to carry one that I got from church around in my pocket everywhere I went, especially when doing street preaching. But you read it with a particular emphasis, and so you're not looking at other issues when you're thinking about particular ones reading it.
Right.
So that's why I didn't really focus on the money before.
Hold on. Yeah, well, here's a question I got because I'm reading what Bill said. John from FEMA region is the idea of doing a show like this. Hey, John, I was just thinking about you today. As a matter of fact, I don't know why, but I was.
I just texted you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I was thinking about us driving on the freeway. It popped into my mind.
Oh, I wonder why.
Let's see. Okay, good. Okay, good. So, yeah, it's coming up, and some of the stuff I'm really not getting into it very much on the air, but some of the stuff that I'm coming across in the topic or the idea of the decay of our society. And what's interesting about it is one thing isn't it. It's everything. It's everything. And we get distracted by the issue of patriarchy. But then there's another topic, LGBTQ. There's another topic, socialism. But all of this fits together. It's all meshing together. And it's hard to see the whole. So one of the things I've been doing recently is watching videos on women's attitudes about men. And I'm really intrigued by a lot of what's being presented, where a lot of women, this isn't all women, this is the new generation of women, the narcissism that they have, their inability to think critically, they're being given over to gossip, feelings, and how men owe them, but at the same time they don't need men. This attitude is like, what? And I thought when I first watched a few videos, it was just a few females that are doing that, or just focusing on it. But more and more and more, I'm seeing that. And what's also interesting is women are actually rising up, saying enough of this. That surprised me. And the women who are talking about it are very articulate and saying a lot of good things. So there's some good going on there. And the men are starting to rise up a little bit too, not in a violent way, but saying, hey, come on, we've had enough of this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so that's starting to happen. So that's good. There's a lot of good going on too.
One of the possible cures for the body politic is neglected a lot, and that's the Convention of States. That's the way to set things straight in the body politic here in this country constitutionally. And it needs to be studied more by everyone to see how that works.
Absolutely.
The so-called conservatives and stuff, real conservatives don't bucket, but the so-called conservatives will lobby against the Convention of States, and so will the liberals, obviously. But it's a huge step in the right direction toward curing this horrible condition of our political system right now.
Right. I got to study more about this stuff. And there's so much to study. There just is. So I'm getting information together. But here's a problem. I don't want to talk about it too much on the air because, it's a theology thing. It's apologetics. But on the other hand, this is part of apologetics because it's everything. So I don't want to turn people off. But I'm doing more and more research now on my phone at night. And then I go to bed and I'll spend a half hour or just going over the stuff in the phone and rewriting things and stuff and getting information. And I've developed an outline on this, and it's 17 pages so far. It might get a long way to go.
We already knew you developed an outline. You develop lots of outlines.
I do have lots of outlines. I love doing outlines. I do. I could do a video on how to do outlines. Anyway, so I'm not sure what we're going to do with all of it. It's just collecting information. I find it interesting. and that's that kind of thing. So, but I'm searching. What I'm doing is I'm searching for something that explains a lot of things, makes sense of a lot of things, and put it into a biblical perspective. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that some churches I've been to actually have free little Constitution pamphlets that have the whole Constitution in them to just give away and things like that, because the church has the solution, which is the Bible, and they're giving away the Constitution, so you know what it actually says.
Yeah. In fact, I read the Constitution. In fact, I have it on CARM, the Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all the amendments, and it was really interesting reading through it. It's amazing how much Christianity is in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. I'm convinced that there's a good deal of influence of the hand of God in the founding of this country.
Yep.
And part of its founding included the tool of the Convention of States, and it shouldn't be neglected as a tool that was included in the work that these really smart men did.
Yep.
I think God put that in there because some of the people who founded this nation were kind of kooky. We wouldn't consider them mainstream Christians today or anything like that, but God still inspired them to create a government that actually works and does have Christian biblical principles in it.
Well, yeah, they were hypersensitive to the impositions that government can put on you. I mean, when they swore their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, I mean, they meant it, and a lot of them gave it all up, right up to their lives in as well. So they saw ahead what to avoid, and were very sensitive to it. And I think people have been desensitized to the danger that comes with what they knew inherently just by living what they went through.
They were educated.
Oh boy, were they? Were they ever?
Yeah, they saw ahead. That's right, Charlie. But they saw behind too, and they knew what happened when governments throw out the Bible and just tyrannicize the people.
Yep.
Here, check this out. Just some of my notes. We have the craziness of polycules, demisexuals, metamors, straight, gay, minor attracted, demi-romantic, homosexual, alosexual, gender fluid, lesbian, non-binary, cupisexual, queer, asexual, bisexual, omnisexual, pansexual, polysexual. That's not even, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the things. I mean, you could make the modern, I'm so bad at singing, but it's like a rhyme, and Data did it on Star Trek. Modern, I can't remember. I can't even get it.
I want to hear you.
What's
I
that?
want to hear. I want to hear you sing. You heard me sing. I want to hear you sing.
Oh no, I'm actually incredibly untalented. If there's a vacuum around talent of me being able to sing, it is so bad. It is that bad. It is. And so, but I was thinking, anyway, I can't remember that. I can remember the tune, but I can't even hum it because I'm so bad at it. Once I had a tune in my head, and I was trying to tell my wife, she goes, "What's a tune?" I said, "I'll try and hum it." I hummed it. She goes, "What?" And then we finally figured out. She goes, "That's what you were humming?" Yeah. She goes, "It was nothing like that." I go, "I told you, I have no talent that way, none." So I can do happy birthday. I can do. That's recognizable.
You're saying when you go to church and the pastor says everybody stand up and sing, he says except Matt?
Yes, that's what they say.
I'll remember that next time that you come down to our church. I'll say, okay, time to worship except for Matt.
That's how it works. That's right. That's right. Yeah, there's that song, Modern Something General. They had it's really fast. I can't even do it. Man, it's that bad. I'm trying to find it because I know that I think it was either Picard or it was Data who said it.
I know
Modern
the song you're
Something
thinking
General.
of, but I don't know the name of it. I've got it half in my mind, just like you do.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
I am a model of a modern married gentleman.
I
am a model of a
There, that's it.
There you go.
That's it. I was thinking.
I don't know the words, but yeah, I know the tune of it. I think you're thinking of Babylon 5.
No, I think it was in Star Trek. They did it. They had a thing.
It was Star Trek. I never watched Babylon 5, so it had to be Star
Babylon
Trek.
5. There was an episode of Babylon 5 that had that too. Yep.
Well, I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun to take these words and put it to that tune? You know, a demisexual, metamorph, straight guy. You know, I wonder if it's doable to put it in there. So, anyway, I don't know. It's just
I was surprised
for this. It crashed and burned.
I only knew what 60% of those things were when you read off the list. You know,
it's ridiculous.
The others, I didn't have a clue.
Insane. Yeah,
What's
and in
sad
fact,
is that I actually knew the song.
So yeah, I'm doing a terms. I have 22 terms. That's just, I mean, there's going to be 100. Democide. You know what democide is? It's killing of people by a government on purpose. Gaslighting, gender dysphoria, identity politics, intersectionality, outing, pansexual, polysexual, queer, sexual orientation, toxic masculinity, transgender, transphobia.
Needless to say, this is stuff we never heard of when we were 5 years old or 12 years old.
Yeah. When I was 12 years old, I didn't even know what it meant to be light in your loafers. I had
What does that mean? What does it mean?
It was a reference to effeminate men. They were light in their loafers.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, well, because I'm older than you, but I had to ask.
Not that much. Different part of the country, though.
And obviously, when I was growing up, queer just meant you dressed funny, or your hair was too long, or you didn't comb it right, or something. It had nothing to do with sex whatsoever.
Yeah.
See, all these confusing terms keep you off balance, so you can't focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just confusion. Anyway, I'm just working on all kind of stuff. Like Queen. I would never listen to Queen. I didn't like Queen. And that's because I didn't approve of the guy being a homosexual. And I wasn't going to support that. Black Sabbath, on the other hand, I would. So don't ask me about consistency here.
I know, but it blew my mind one time you were shooting a video and you were walking, you drove home and then you walked into your house and Queen was blasting. And I thought,
my wife was playing that.
I thought Matt Slick listens to Queen. That's weird. That's wild.
Now, my wife listens to Queen. Yeah. She likes Queen. She also likes to listen to Hispanic, what is it called? Rumba? No, it's Latin, just Latin music, you know, Latin dance music and stuff. I don't know. It's just, I'll go in there and they're singing in Spanish, and it's that real peppy kind of stuff you'd use in dance classes when you want to move quickly, you know. And she likes that. Okay,
salsa,
whatever. Salsa, that kind of stuff, and other things, and yeah. And Bruce Springsteen, he never did it for me either. I always thought his music was boring.
Yeah.
I didn't like him either.
Yeah,
not a
formula. It's absolutely formula stuff. That's all. Yeah, I don't mind what a performer is. I just don't want them to celebrate their sexuality in front of me if it's something. Right. I mean, I'm not celebrating mine and pushing it on anybody. You know, that's just, how about just perform in an attractive way with your music or lyrics or both, you know, and leave the sexuality out of it. You know, I mean, come on.
I admit it. I have almost every Queen album and almost every Village People album. So let's not talk about the performers' sex lives.
Village People. Yeah. Now you're talking.
We know Kit dances around now doing the YMCA, right?
Well, to be fair, we sing at YHWH, so it's about the
It doesn't make it much better, Kit.
No.
We do that on.
But you got to say that.
By the way, Apologetics put out that song, so it's a Christian song now, and we play it on our Discord server.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah.
Well, on the Native American Paula Reservation, many years ago, I won a lot of money on the the Village People one-armed Bandit. So I like the Village People. It would blast their song every time I'd win, and boy, did I blast it. So, of course, Debbie spent it all on cream puffs. They had the best cream puffs in the world. So
We were at the Sun Bowl game once, and they played at halftime, and I was the only one that didn't stand up for that song. I just was sitting there thinking, what does YMCA have to do with a football game? It was a disconnect for me.
Why even go to a football game?
I do like football. I'll admit that.
I've been to a football game back in high school. I was very bored. I went to a baseball game once, and I'm like, okay, when can I go home? Please let me go home.
I'll admit, talking about sports does not make me bind with my spiritual teachers, because none of them seem to like sports, except James White likes bicycle racing, but that's the only sport he likes. So he doesn't like any of the sports I like.
He challenged me to a bicycle race once. He goes, "Hey, let's go racing." I said, "Are you kidding?" And I think I responded with, "Let's get on to Tommy. Let's go at it that way." He didn't like that, but yeah, he's a bicycle guy. But yeah, sports. Oh man,
I don't know how you missed out on that, Matt. Back in the 60s, I met Colonel Sanders before he was really popular at a Rams game in LA, on the Rams against the Saints. And I'll tell you, people don't remember Norm Van Brocklin and Roman Gabriel and those guys, but hey, it was some of my best, earliest memories, and I've always had a passion for good football since then.
It is weird. Most of the apologists I know of, and my best teachers, don't seem to have the football gene or the basketball gene.
We got other things to do. I lost respect for sports when I was very young, and I would hear reports of them just being bought and sold and traded, and they would leave just for money. And I thought, forget that. And then it wasn't much honor in the sports. I want to see people helping each other as good men would do. And in fact, the only Olympics event I ever remember in all of Olympics ever, just one event, and it was a black guy from an African country who was training, who had trained in a hotel pool to represent his country in swimming. And he was I mean, I could have maybe beat him, that he was like that, not that good, of course you beat me, I'm sure. But I mean, he wasn't that good compared to world-class swimmers. And they get him there to the venue, and go. Everybody dives in. I mean, rooster tails, and he's just sloshing through the water. And he's making progress. And I think they were all out of the pool by the time he got to the other end or something like that. And the crowd went crazy, yelling for him, because there was sportsmanship. He was doing it, and I never forgot that. And they interviewed him later. He came in so dead last. He was last behind the last. And he said he heard them cheering, and he thought it was for the winner. But no, they were cheering for him. I've told the story before. That, to me, is what's worth watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people snickered at the Jamaican bobsled team.
Yeah, that was great too.
Where are they going to find snow in Jamaica, for crying out loud? But then they became competitive, and it wasn't such a joke. Yeah.
See, that's what makes it interesting.
Matt, there are especially NFL players that give a lot of money to sick children and things like that from what they make. Yeah. Unfortunately, they have a big award ceremony every year to give an award to the one that seems to do the most for charity or their community, which I'm against, signaling them out and showing that they're the one that does that. But yeah, a lot of NFL players especially give a lot of money to children's hospitals and other charities, some charities that we'd agree with and some that we wouldn't.
Yeah, virtue signaling. Yeah, and that's one thing I like about Brian Regan, the comedian. He does benefits for sick children, and he goes into hospitals, and he doesn't promote it. And Johnny Depp. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of him doing the same thing. He goes into hospitals as Captain Jack, or whatever his name is. Jack Black.
Sparrow.
Jack. I don't even watch the stuff. Yeah, but he goes in
Captain
there.
Jack Sparrow.
Thank you, Jack Sparrow. And I've seen videos of him going into hospitals and meeting people, and they just absolutely love it. They just love it. And he's not there for publicity. Of course, they film him because, hey, it's Jack. What are you going to do? People are going to film him. He knows that. And that was good. That's good. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the award ceremonies, because the Bible says if you do something good and you say, look at me, look at all the good I'm doing, well, then you got your reward. God's not going to reward you for it.
Right.
Because you already rewarded yourself.
Yep. Speaking of sports and all that, Hamlin, apparently he's doing really well. The football player, he was talking, and his family's there with him, and I think that's awesome.
He's doing great.
Yeah, that's
I
so
hope
good.
they can find a place for him in the NFL for next year, because once you are involved for 3 years, you get a pension from them. He's only been in there for 2 years and can't earn a full pension from them. But
I didn't know that.
His charity that had a Kickstarter goal of I think $2,500 went up to like $5 million the same week when he was injured. So people responded in his in his name to reaching out to people through his organization, as small as it was. This guy was just starting out.
Yeah.
But gosh, I hope there's a place for him for some involvement in the next year, so he can get a pension. I knew a guy that was in the NFL for 9 years, and his pension, when I met him back in the 1970s, late 70s, his pension was humongous.
I would do that. I'd go into the NFL for a pension. I'd do it for a couple of weeks.
I don't know what the pensions are now, but this guy was one of the old school guys before they paid a lot of money, but his pension.
Matt, you can't be in the NFL if you constantly say you hate football and all of that.
I could be the water boy, go out there and squirt water in their mouth.
Yeah, I would do that. Yeah. I would do that. I would give them the theology lessons before and after the games.
There you go.
Yeah, I want to mention that because that's another reason you shouldn't just put down football. The Philadelphia Eagles were in a Bible magazine I had.
Really?
They were. This was like 3 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. They were Reformed. They had Reformed teachers. They were having Bible studies. They were holding church services and all of that, even when they were on the road, because that's the hardest thing, is to attend church services when you're on the road. And they were doing all of that. They had spiritual counselors and everything. I don't know if they still do, but 3 years ago they did. And these weren't just your average, black woman pastor thing. No, these were real pastors that know the Bible and were Reformed teachers and everything. Good. It was phenomenal what I read in there about it. And the year I read it, I predicted they would win the Super Bowl, and they did, even though I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. Well, the entire NFL makeup is wildly overpopulated with sound Christians.
Really?
Not the kind that toot their horns, but the real kind that live it and make a benefit for others from it. It's
there's fake ones too, but there are really good ones.
Of course, but it's wildly overpopulated with the real deal. And you just don't. You hear about the gangsters and all this other stuff. They're the ones that get attention. These other guys, no. They and other sports stars do the same thing. The guy that has fulfilled the most Make-A-Wish Foundation wishes for kids with terminal illnesses and stuff, and he won't say it, but they keep recognizing him for it, is John Cena, World Wrestling Federation. He's fulfilled more terminally ill kid's last wishes than anybody.
Oh, that good for him.
Oh,
I
man.
love wrestling. I know it's stupid. I know it's fake, and I just love it.
Well, it's the money's not fake, but everything else.
I can make an outline for you of it, Matt, if you need that.
No thanks. It's fake. I can't watch anything. It's fake. I know these guys are good athletes, and you can't do what you're doing without skill. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
to me, they're just like stuntmen. I know it's
Yeah,
fake, but they're putting on a stunt show, and to me, the stunt show is it's entertaining.
Yeah. Well,
if you like
exhibition of athletic abilities. And if you go to a football game, you see football athletic abilities. You pay to see them, and they take the money, and it goes into their paycheck. Same thing with wrestling. You go to see their athletic performance, and I mean, it's the same exchange for an athletic event as you would see at any other athletic event. So that part is real, and the rest is just gravy. My father-in-law was a professional wrestler, and he told me a lot of the ins and outs of it. And it'd be amazing to hear stories from him about the guys in the business, what they were really like. You know?
By the way, there are Christian wrestling leagues too, where they give their testimonies before and after fights and things like that, where the whole purpose is the glory of God. Now, those aren't the ones you see on TV or anything, but they do hold local events. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes their tickets are almost nothing, so that people will go there and hear about Jesus. I don't know how effective they are, but there are people who wrestle for the sake of getting the gospel out.
Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
I had a friend here who
even some of what they call the heels are Christians in real life. The heels are the really bad guys.
Well, I'm just saying, if you go to YouTube and type in Christian wrestling, you will see that there's whole leagues of it, and they're holding big community events, and they're giving their testimonies, and they're reading the Bible to people. It's beautiful. It's just, like I said, it's not the WWE, so it's not what you see when you tune in for a wrestling show on national TV.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, John Cena became very woke.
I'm not trying to convince Matt I'm not trying to convince Matt to become a wrestling fan or a football fan. If what he's doing is working for him, that's great.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln was a wrestler, so.
Yeah, but so was Joseph Smith.
So was Jacob.
Why did you say
that? Jacob lost to JC.
Hey, let's see. I do have a way to vote. I mean, to root for a football team, whichever one is playing against BYU.
There we go.
Whoever's playing against them, that's what I'll root for. But that means I have to pay attention and watch it.
Same with Notre Dame.
I don't know who they are.
Well, Notre Dame's a Catholic school, so you know.
Oh, no.
We had a new guy show up at church, Matt, and he is a young kid who was going to BYU, and he had a friend that started talking to him about things. He started questioning, and now he's leaving BYU and going to a Baptist university in Oklahoma.
Good for him.
Good.
Yeah,
praise God.
Awesome.
There are people that have tried to do Christian outreach at BYU. They are very unwelcome. It is extremely difficult to do.
If you go to BYU and you are Mormon and you end up becoming Christian, they will not give you your credits. If they find out you are kicked out, and they keep all the credits that you've earned. So you have to keep it on the down low. You can go to BYU as a Christian, but you're going in as a Christian. But if you start out as a Mormon, like we have one gal at our church, and she actually had to keep it down low until she graduated, just because they would have taken all of her credits.
Well, I do know about this law. So 98% of the student body at BYU is Mormon, and the others are usually sports players because they want their teams to do well. But the reason why they can't force you to be a Mormon to go to BYU is because they get government funding, the Pell Grants, and all of that. And so as long as you take government money, you can't say you have to be our religion to attend. But they do everything they can to make it that way, to get around those laws.
Yep.
Heck, I'd go to BYU.
John L. Smith, the great Mormon apologist. Well, he wasn't a Mormon apologist. He was a Christian that had an outreach to Mormons. He was from Marlow, Oklahoma. Great guy. I met him quite a few times. He went on a BYU tour of the great Mormon sites like Palmyra and where Joseph Smith died and all that. And he wrote a book about it. But he went on a sponsored BYU tour of the great sites of early Mormonism.
Yeah, Matt and I used to use his tracks early in our ministry, amongst other things. And
I loved John L. Smith. He was so great.
And my sister lives in Palmyra, and my mother was born in Palmyra, which might explain why she was a little bit weird. So
he told the same stories every single time, and so when I would show up, because I lived in Utah 18 years, he said, "Why do you keep showing up? I tell the same stories every time." So
All right, guys, I'm going to get going. Check on the wife and cats.
He's going to go watch a basketball game. You know that.
That's not happening.
Just admit it, Matt. You'll feel better.